I'm Austin Hughes. Most of y'all know me. The reason I started this group, I don't remember when it was, maybe 2018 or so, was for networking. So I love to see everyone here and see everyone networking. That's the whole purpose of this. And me sharing what I'm going to share is a side benefit. It's a plus. But we try to always have time at the beginning and leave some time at the end for networking. So glad to have all y'all here. What we're going to be talking about today is scaling your real estate investing business. And I know there are people at different levels in this room right here, so we're going to have something for someone that just wants to do it yourself and just wants to go that route, some tips and advice and help, and then others if you want to actually build and scale an entire business. And a lot of this stuff applies to not just real estate, but any business. This is for you too. So we're talking about growth. Now there's two main reasons why someone would scale a company or want to scale a company. So you've either got the first one, time freedom, or the other one is leverage. Those are really the two main reasons why anyone would be interested in scaling. If you're not interested in either of these two things, you don't really need to scale. You can just kind of spend your time every single day from the moment you start working until the end of your career, doing it all yourself and kind of being a solo entrepreneur and having a job. And I'm not knocking that at all. But if you want time freedom, even if you don't want to build a whole company, even if you just want to do it yourself or you and your spouse, then there are things that you can do to even just scale your time. So when I first got started, I kind of fell in this camp. That was the dream. And, I started in college, my last year of college, and I didn't really know anything else. I read the 4-Hour Work Week. And so I thought, that's what you have to do, right? You build a company such that you can have a team, they can work, and you can be on the beach, and just check in on your laptop every now and again. But that's all I knew when I started out. And what I've learned about myself as I've gone on, now it's been over 7 years, is I more identify with this side. This is a guy trying to lift the world through leverage. And as you scale, leverage it can be your best friend and it can be your biggest source of problems. But whenever you reach a point where you don't necessarily have to do all of the day-to-day stuff in your company, you get to choose. What do I want? Do I want to go to this point, or do I want to double down and now invest my time and my efforts and my brain power into solving bigger problems and continuing to grow the business? So that's what I find more enjoyment in right now. We went on our honeymoon for a 7-day cruise, and after 5 days, I didn't have my phone on. I turned my phone on twice to take 2 pictures. That was it. So I know how to disconnect. But after about 5 days, I was like, this was good. This was good. Let's put a bow on it. And then we did an extra 2 days on the cruise. She loved it. She would have done a 2-week cruise. But I realized, because I had never really taken that much time off. And so I realized that, okay, after about 5 days, I feel like that's perfect. And I'm ready to get back at it. So whether you're looking to just get more free time or to actually build a company, the first step to scaling up is scaling yourself. And a lot of people in this room, that's all you want to do is have it just be yourself, maybe your family, or you and your spouse running the company. This may be as far as you ever get. And that's not a bad thing by any means. That can be a great path. But you'll never reach this place, having free time, being able to take vacations, having a business that serves you. You'll never reach that place if you're not scaling yourself. And by the way, you can reach that point doing it by yourself. If you can orchestrate a business where you're doing 4 or 5 flips a year and you can knock them all out early in the year, sell them in the spring and summertime, and then you make as much money as you need for the year, and it's just you, and of course you might have some contractors, you can have that dream, right? So you don't have to build this big team and do all of that when we're talking about scaling. So let me give you an example. This is Podio. This is the CRM we use. Does everyone know what a CRM is? Or anyone not know what a CRM is? Raise your hand. Okay, so CRM is basically, it's a database that has actions you can do in it. So it organizes everything, and then you can automate certain things within it. So it just helps you keep up with tasks and leads and your sales process, basically. So back whenever I first started, when it was just Austin as Thunder Sun Homes, I was a full-time college student. I was in my senior year, and I was doing real estate on the side in my free time and spending as much time as I could on it. But what that looked like for me is I had some yellow pads. I'd take notes on them. I had my phone. I'd save people's numbers, and I didn't have a CRM system. I just I did it however I could. I kept track of things in different places, and I was able to make maybe 10 or 15 calls a day. Because what would happen is I'd get to my working time for the day, say, okay, I need to make my follow-ups. I need to try to get some deals going. And I'd look at the list and see, okay, who are the people I need to call today? What are their numbers? Sometimes I saved them, sometimes I didn't save them. Okay, so I found this person's number, which I still have some of these in my contacts. I'll just put their name and then want to buy a home. That's how I saved it. That was my organization. But so I just typed in want to buy a home, and then, oh yeah, Kathy or David, whatever. And it was very disorganized. And then I'd go to call them and say, wait, hold on. What was the last conversation I had with these people? What was their property address again? So then I'd get on Google and try to look them up. And it would take me all this time just to make one phone call. And so when it was just me doing the business, I was able to make 10 to 15 calls a day of trying to generate business. And I got Podio in place. I got a very basic CRM that just basically said when people call in, they're going to show up in Podio. They'll show up in a list. I can call them. I have all of the notes, all of the history, their phone number is right there, their address is there, and I can call them. They don't answer. I click a follow-up task and I move on to the next one. And so what this allowed me to do is now I'm calling someone, and as the phone's ringing, I'm looking at the notes, looking at the address. That way if they answer, I know right where we left off, what we talked about. If they don't answer, swipe to the next one, call them, phone's ringing. I'm looking at this history, they don't answer, go to the next one. So I was able to go from 10 calls a day up to 60 calls a day just by implementing one thing, by implementing a CRM. And so the concept of being able to scale yourself is increasing your capacity. That's one of the keys to scaling, is having enough opportunity. We'll talk about that here in a second. But you have to increase your capacity to earn. And really, before you want to scale a business, you have to optimize and scale your own individual efforts. And there's lots of different ways to do that. CRM is just one example. Grab my water real quick. All right. Now, another case of why you need to scale yourself first, and this may be the first and only thing you scale if you're doing it yourself, and that's perfectly fine. But if you want to scale a team and grow a company, this is the first thing you scale on the road to building that company. The reason you need to scale yourself first, I talked about increasing your earning capacity. Every time you level up, you have to personally generate enough opportunity for not just yourself, but two people. So you think of the 2,000 realtors in Lubbock that are all fighting for deals right now, right? And they're just trying to make enough to survive. And they're just trying to, everyone's so focused on, I just have to do enough so I can feed my family. And that's a noble cause. When we think of how many people are doing that in this industry, and the fact that you say you want to scale, this could scare off a lot of you, what I'm about to say, because a lot of people don't think about this until they reach this point. But if you ever want to scale and grow a team, you have to be one of the highest producing people in your field. You have to make enough not just to feed your family, but to feed someone else's family. That's what a lot of people don't think about. We think of, how can I grow this team? How can I scale? If you have a certain lifestyle that you need to make a certain amount of money, and you want to hire someone else that's quality, and they're going to have similar lifestyle needs, you have to produce double what everyone else is struggling to produce. So all these realtors that are just trying to get by and just trying to make it, that's not even in the conversation of scaling. You have to be able to make it, and you have to be able to produce enough for two people, because then you can hire someone and you can help them provide for their family. So if that scares you, then you may just want to look at doing it for yourself first, but that's the reality of scaling. Now, how I did it was actually a little bit different because my cost of living was so low. I started when I was in college. I paid myself $1,000 a month, maybe $1,100 a month for a few years. So I didn't need to make double someone's income. I just needed to get to, if one salary is 100%, I just needed 120%. And I would pay someone their full salary, and then I would pay myself, 20%, just a tiny amount. So if you can do that, you can, and you want to grow a team, you can grow a team a lot faster that way. But as we all know, as you go through life, you kind of pick up different lifestyle things. You pick up a more expensive mortgage, car payments, just standards of living, and it can be hard to do that, to where most people in this room do need to just outproduce by double to be able to start scaling. Who's heard this one? That delegation is key. Who's heard this from people talking about growing a company, building your business? This is basically the dream, right? If you have a team, you want to be able to delegate everything. I kind of agree with the premise, but I have a much different take on this, because when I think of delegating, that sounds miserable to me. I mean, think about this. So imagine I'm in the center of this team, and everything flows through me, and I have to delegate, and then I have to delegate. And it's, how many items does our business look at in a day? That's sellers, that's buyers, that's construction projects, tenants. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people every single day. And if all that came through me and I was delegating everything, that sounds like the worst nightmare in the world. So delegation is good to a point, and it has a purpose, but I believe more in creating ownership, creating positions that people can take, and you build one process, and then the next time you do it a few times, you figure out the best way, you build a second process, and you start building out the shell of a position that one specialist can come in and do. And then you don't have to delegate, because everyone's just going to that specialist. They're not coming to you. The tenants don't come to me with their problems. They go to the property manager, right? So giving ownership of a position far exceeds delegation in my mind. But to get to ownership of a position, you have to be able to delegate first. So if you're at the point right now where maybe you have one person in your company and you're looking at adding a second, or maybe it's just you and you're generating the business, and maybe you want to add your first team member. You might think as soon as they come in, you're just going to start delegating tasks to them, right? That's common knowledge. Don't do that. That is how you waste a ton of money. You waste a ton of time, you burn them out, you don't set them up for success. Number one, you have to eliminate first. Before you ever delegate, look at your processes and say, what are we doing? What habits have we picked up along the way that aren't really serving us, that aren't really necessary, that we just do them because that's how it was always done. That's how I've always done it. I don't know why. So before you ever delegate, you need to eliminate the unnecessary stuff. And then you don't delegate still. Then you automate. So automating is like the CRM that I use. So if I had been on my pace of making 10 calls a day, 10, 15 calls a day, and I had just said, I'm going to hire and I'm going to delegate this to someone. Now they think, okay, to be successful, I just need to make 10 calls a day and I'll be successful. I would be setting them up for failure. And anyone that you hire into your company is going to look for you for the standards and what they need to do to be successful. So if I hadn't eliminated parts of that job, I eliminated the scratch pad. That's not part of our process anymore. I eliminated the need to have every single contact in your phone. You save some contacts, but we have a centralized phone system that works with our CRM that helps us keep up with people. And then a lot of that was automated. So instead of me just counting on them doing it like I did it at the beginning, which is memory, and oh yeah, I need to call this person on Thursday, we just put it into the system and automate the task process. So now, whoever I bring in to do whatever role it is, this role that I was doing, their capacity is greatly increased before we ever hire them. Then you delegate. So delegation isn't the first thing, it comes after 2 other steps. So build your processes, but then look at what is unnecessary and what can I automate so that they're only doing the highest value tasks that they can do. And more you can automate so many things. You know, with AI, you can automate writing a paragraph, writing a post, doing an Airbnb listing. You know, you can give it specific instructions and it'll produce really good quality stuff. So eliminate and automate before you ever delegate, and give ownership. So when it's time to scale, it's not just going to happen. You have to plan. So there's an awesome book that I read starting out. A lot of you ask me, where do you get all this stuff from? How do you learn this stuff? Who taught you? I just read books. That's it. So there's a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Anyone read The E-Myth? Yes. Awesome book. So you could read The E-Myth, or I'll give you the quick and skinny version, but this is how you plan, how you set up your company to be able to scale. So this will be on the slides, is why I included all this, but I'll kind of give you all the gist of each of these points so you don't have to read it. So create your vision for your company. What do you want your company to do for you? That's step 1. What type of lifestyle do you want your company to provide to you? Step 2, create your business model. Flips, wholesales, rentals, whatever goes with your vision for the company. Then you create an org chart. So you're going to create every single position in the company. I'll give you all an example here on the next slide. And fill in the chart with the duties of what these people are going to do. So salesperson is going to sell properties. Acquisitions person is going to buy properties. So on and so forth. Then, this is where it's going to seem stupid, but I did this, and I did it multiple times. Once you have all the roles in your future company written out, you're going to put the name of who's responsible for that role right next to it. And it's pretty much going to all be your name. Unless you have maybe a realtor can handle something, so you don't have to have an employee, you can have someone that's outsourced as a contractor to help you. But you're going to fill in your name in most of these boxes. And it's not a dumb exercise. It is a great exercise because you can quickly work to start replacing yourself and hiring and getting help to where you're not the one wearing all the hats. So this is the E-Myth. Great book. It's a very simple book. It's more of a story book, but the story that it tells really makes it click of why you need to do this. And here's an org chart. So I don't have room for everything here, but you got marketing, acquisitions, sales, finance, property management. We left out construction. All right, there's a whole nother branch. So there are lots of companies out there like Gary Vaynerchuk, VaynerMedia. They are just this company. They are just a marketing company. That is the only thing that they do. But in real estate investing, you have to have marketing expertise, but it's not your whole business. It's just one arm of the business. There are sales organizations that just do sales. Maybe they do some marketing as well, but that's an area of the business. You've got finance, property management. There are some companies that are just property management companies, and that's all they do. For us, that's just one aspect of our company. And then construction. There are also companies that just do construction, but for us, that's just one branch of the business. So figuring out what you want your business to look like, what structure you need. If you're going to be flipping houses, you're going to need a construction arm. If you're just going to be wholesaling, you can cut it out and not use it, just like we have here. So this is just a rough structure of a company. You can grab this later from the files, but you want to do something like this and then put what they're responsible for, and you can even break it down within that position. They can do multiple things, like property manager, leasing agent. So the leasing agent is responsible for filling the units, but that could be one role. There could also be marketing. There could also be follow-up. So even just within leasing agent, there could be different roles. Maybe you just give someone ownership of one of those roles and you still have two. You can kind of, going through that exercise that I just went through on this slide, going through that exercise will show you some opportunities of ways that you can outsource or delegate before you start to grow a big team. And with that org chart, as you start to replace yourself, find people that are better than you at what they're doing. Now, you probably are not going to find someone that's a better entrepreneur than you, because if they were a better entrepreneur, they would have their own company. So that's not what you want to look for. But if you have someone that is painting the walls, you want someone that is way more skilled. They don't need to put up tape. They can just cut a corner, just like, in their sleep they can do it. That's who you want doing that. You want a property manager that is far beyond your skills, which for me, that is very easy. The bar is very low for me, for my property management skills. Andy, how many houses would you say you've built over the years? 700 or 800? So Andy's our project manager, and he's built 700 or 800 new homes, right? Mostly new. I've done way less than that. We're well over 100, but the experience and specialty that he has far surpasses my skills in project management. And so you want to get people in positions that are just, that you can learn from. Now, it's a balance, because you have to have a system for people to come into and understand, okay, this is how our company does it. This is our way of doing things that they can apply their skills and expertise to. But doing this is one of the best ways to scale a business. Even if you're not super organized or you don't have a great plan, you can just assemble the Avengers, the power team, to run your company, and they each run in their lane and know exactly what they're doing. They will take you really far. So don't be intimidated by this. I remember the first interview I did where I felt like this was the case, where I was interviewing someone that knew way more than I knew. And it was kind of nerve-wracking during it, but that's a good sign. If you get those feelings, okay, I'm onto something. I might have someone that I want to keep around. And this is also something that you'll probably have to go through if you do build a team, is that you'll go through some turnover. But look at turnover as a good thing in the right amounts. You want to build tenure within your company, but my experience has been that every single time we have to go back to hiring for a position, it gets better and better and better. So the processes are improved. So constantly be working on your processes, constantly be asking that expert that you've hired into your company, how would you do this? What do you think is the better way to do this? So every time you have to hire, you're constantly improving your processes. You're resetting the bar. So this happened with us, Zane. I don't know if you remember, but we had talked probably a year before Zane actually joined our company in sales, and I actually believed what I was being told by someone on our team, that the leads were no good, that people don't want to sell. Every person we call, they want top dollar, and they're not willing to negotiate, and they don't want to talk, and we don't have good leads. And I actually started to believe that. And once that person left and I jumped back in, I got 14 deals in 7 weeks, I believe. And if you know how much time I spent on it, it was very, very little, because I have a lot of other stuff going on. But I was just like, what? And I remember calling you and telling you about, the leads are incredibly good. People do want to sell. There's huge opportunity. And sometimes, if you don't have the right people on your team, you're going to listen to things that are not true. And you might even start to believe them. So as you grow your team and as certain people leave, it should always continue to get better. Processes get better, and you get to reset the bar. And I thought, oh yeah, these are excellent leads. These are closable deals. Our sales process does work, and you can reset those standards for your company. And then the last thing is your opportunity vehicle gets better. You're able to attract better quality people. The team that we have today, I would not have been able to get anybody on board 6 years ago. Because we were just starting out. We were unproven, didn't have a track record, didn't have enough opportunity to share like I talked about. You have to have enough to pay all these different people. We didn't have any of that. And so as you grow and as you go through time, you'll be able to attract better and better people if you continue to grow. So I've got 8 things on this list. I kind of thought through it, and there may be some more. There are more. Scaling a company is very nuanced. And, even just this year in 2023, we've grown tremendously. We've already surpassed in the first 3 months, we surpassed our numbers from all of last year. And even now, there's brand new problems that I didn't even think would ever come. So if you continue to scale, you'll continue to run into more and more brand new problems, which is a good thing. That's what comes with it. And so, if you remember the earlier picture of leverage versus sitting on the beach, I wanted to go towards that side. So we're growing and we're scaling, and I'm putting in my efforts into that. I didn't just want to coast with where the company was at and go, check out. So these 8 things that I have right here, they will greatly impact your ability to scale or not be able to scale. So if you look at these, you see, okay, if this is in place, and if I think I do this well or I have this down, I can probably just move on to the next one, and this isn't going to keep me from scaling. If you see stuff where you're like, I don't have that, you probably need to look at that, and that's probably what's going to keep you from being able to scale. So I'm going to go down the list here. I can provide some examples, but I have more info, more slides and all that, but I wanted to kind of stop here after we go through these and just expand on any of these 8 that anyone wanted to talk about, hear about, things like that. So number 1, I'm going to get over here. So the first thing is opportunity generated by you. We've talked about this. You have to be able to have enough opportunity, not just for yourself, but for other people. So if you have that, you have the option to try and start scaling. If you don't have that, it's going to hinder your ability to scale. You have to have a financial model that matches your business model that's going to allow you to scale. Meaning, if you're like me and you started out with no money and every single deal had to pay for itself, that same financial model is what we still have to this day, because money doesn't just ever appear from nowhere. So we have to buy deals with good equity that we can get 100% finance. We can get the purchase plus the rehab costs. That's my business model. And so just having that match where we want to go is really important. People will greatly impact your ability to scale or not be able to scale. So I had all the systems in place. I had as much automated as I could at the time, really good processes, really good scripts. And if you looked at my company from the outside back in 2018, 2019, 2020, you would see a company that was well organized, that knew the right way or an optimized way to do a bunch of different things in the business. But this was my hang up, was people. And my company had everything else except for the right people, and it had us plateau for a few years. So that can be the best thing, or the thing that keeps you from being able to keep growing is people. Organization, just being organized. Having a CRM like Podio or any of the other ones are good. Just have a CRM. Documented processes, automated processes. Again, we talk about eliminate, automate, and then delegate. So you got to document what you're doing and then go through there and try to automate as much of that as possible. And the last one is scheduled time to work on your business. Does anyone ever get stuck in the weeds? Everybody does. You get bogged down and this is thrown at you and you got to put out this fire and then this comes at you, you got to figure it out. And you don't have time to actually step back and say, where are we going? I'm steering this ship. Where is this ship headed? That's what working on your business does. So I recommend weekly, even if it's just you. So go back to the group of people that you don't want to grow a big team, you just want to do it yourself. Schedule time either by yourself or with your spouse or somebody where you can just once a week stop, look at how you're doing, look at your metrics, your sales numbers, your whatever you measure. Look at how you're doing, update that, and then go through some issues. What is currently holding my company back from these goals that we've set? Work through some issues. Our leadership, Jesus and I, we do that every single Friday. We call it our level 10 meeting. And that's when we delegate time to work on the business. So doing that consistently is going to keep you making those little adjustments to keep that ship on point, going in the direction that you want it to. Even if it's just you. If you just say, I'm shutting my phone off, and I've had some ideas that have been mulling around in my brain for a while, but we haven't had the time to do them. So I'm just going to shut everything off, sit down. I'm going to look at what is my goal? Are we on track for that? If not, what do I need to do to get on track? And if we are on track, what obstacles are in the way right now? What things do we need to fix? What processes do we need to work on or put in place so we can then delegate and get some help from people? So that's a big one too. So I've got more to share, but I wanted to stop here and just see, because this list of 8, like I said, it's not everything that could help you scale or keep you from scaling, but it's a lot of the big ones. So does anyone want to look at or talk about or have a question about any of these 8 things? Not the granny.
On Korea, is it a free or a paid model, or did you graduate as you grew into it?
Yes, we went from a free to a paid model. It only took a couple months, so pretty much if you're going to use it, get ready to pay for it. Yeah, if you want to automate it, you have to pay. That's most CRMs, you'll have to pay for them, but the cost of technology is tiny compared to, I 4x'd my production just by using that, so you can get way more business.
I would have to agree with what Austin said. Remember that time we ate at Table 87 with Tommy?
Table 82?
Table 82. This is right when I started my company. When I started my company, I hired somebody right away, and I did not know what kind of processes were in place. And we got slow, and the guy left me, and I had to revamp my whole company because I didn't know what was going on. And that's something, after that, I was scared to hire. I was like, I want to get all my processes and everything nailed down, because I was like, shoot, if I ever hire, I don't want them to quit and me not sure how to run my company again. And Austin told me that day. He's like, before you give a position away, he's like, you gotta, how do you say, tie it all together and put a bow tie on top.
Yep, bundle it up into a specific position.
And then you give it to them, and then you let them run with it. And so that's how you scale. And that's a mistake I made in the beginning. It cost me quite a bit of money, but I feel like overcoming it. I mean, we'll sort of the issues, but
yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, that's something that even as you continue to grow is something you have to be very intentional about, because like I said, this year's been so crazy, and Jesus and I have to stop and say, okay, is this in a process, or are we just saying, oh yeah, do this, oh yeah, you do it like this? It's easy to fall back into that trap as you encounter brand new problems and challenges. So it's at the beginning for sure, but then even as you keep growing, you have to be really intentional about that. What else? I want to hear from y'all on this list of 8 things. If you can't see it and you want me to repeat some of them, let me know. But what questions do y'all have or experiences with these?
You expand a little bit on organization.
Yes. Now we will go to the granny. Got to get organized. Okay. The only person in here that knew me before Thunder Sun Homes is my dad back there in the blue shirt. And he's seen my room dirty as a kid many, many, many times. I'm not an organized person by nature. But I knew, and this even started at the very beginning when I started this company, I knew that, okay, with the vision I have for this business and making that organization chart, I'm going to have to get really organized. Because if I'm going to create processes for this position or that position, I've got to get way more organized. I got to get all these ideas in my head and get them down in a process on Google Docs. I like Vimeo as a tool. So Vimeo, if you want to write that down there, it's a Google Chrome add-on, but you can do unlimited videos. You can either just record yourself or you can record your computer screen as you're working on it and save that video, upload it to YouTube. So Vimeo is great. And then everything else we keep in Google Docs. But as you build a company, I mean, I went from very disorganized. Now, personally, I'm kind of organized now, but I'm not super organized. But in the company, we have an organization process, which is, it goes down as far as how do you name a file before you save it. You do if it's a contract, you do the title of the contract, so agreement to sell real estate, then you do the address, whatever the address is, and then you do the person's name. So we even have it down that specific on not just how I'm organized, but how everyone on the team needs to do things so that the business can stay organized as well. So really important as you scale. Because things don't go from chaos to order. Things go from order to chaos. So if you're not intentional and you're not organized, it will quickly descend into chaos. What else? Everyone's scaling their companies? What do y'all think on this list? Go back. What out of these 8 things would y'all say is your biggest challenge? Would anyone say it's the financial model to match your business model? Raise your hand. Okay. People. Okay. We already talked about organization. Processes. Having time to work on your business. Okay. If you're not proficient at, number 1, generating enough opportunity that you even have the thought of being able to grow, you shouldn't have any problems with number 8. If you're not generating business, you should have all the time in the world to work on, thinking about how do I want this business to look? How do I want it to run? What processes am I going to make? The only people that shouldn't have time for that are people that are just killing it with production, personal production. You're getting a bunch of deals yourself. You're locking down contracts with sellers, selling properties, renting properties, whatever it is. That's the only real reason that you should struggle with time to work on your business. Or if you have a job, you have a W-2 or kids. I don't have those. So I can't use that excuse yet. But all right, before we wrap it up, anything else? Any other final questions? Anyone want to hear about any of these? I've got some more slides. I'll put in the slide deck going into CRMs, documenting processes, automation, that sort of thing. So I'll put all those up in the slideshow when I send it out. I just didn't want to get too nitty gritty on a bunch of stuff and take time away. So that's it for today. We'll be meeting, I believe, on the 20th. Is that right? Yep. June 20th. We always meet on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. So even if I forget to schedule it and I just post it the Monday before and everyone shows up and we're good, it'll be on the 3rd Tuesday. So thank y'all for coming. See you next time.